I remember the exact moment my life changed. Not when I signed the contract, not when I heard my name called on draft night, not even when I stepped onto an NBA court for the first time and felt 20,000 eyes burning into my skin. It was 3 weeks after my first paycheck cleared. I was sitting in my new apartment. Nothing crazy, just a clean 2-bedroom in a quiet part of the city, the kind of place where you could actually hear yourself think, when my phone lit up. Mom. I smiled before I even answered. She'd been calling more often lately, which made sense. She was proud. I was proud. After everything we'd been through, I'd finally made it. "Hey, Ma," I said, leaning back against the couch. The leather was still stiff, still smelled new. Everything in my life smelled new. Baby. Her voice was warm, familiar. The same voice that used to wake me up at 5 in the morning for practice, that used to tell me I could be great when everyone else said I was dreaming. "How you doing?" "I'm good. Real good. Just got back from practice. Coach has me working on my—" "That's wonderful, baby. Listen, I need to talk to you about something." There was a pause. Not long. Just enough to make my stomach tighten. "What's up?" "Well, your brother, Marcus, needs some help." I should have known. I should have felt it coming the way you feel rain before it hits. But I didn't. Or maybe I didn't want to. "What kind of help?" I asked carefully. "He's got this opportunity, you know? A business thing. Real estate. But he needs some capital to get started." And I told him, I said, "Your brother just signed that big contract. I'm sure he'd want to help family." I closed my eyes. Took a breath. "How much are we talking?" 50,000. The number hung in the air like a missed free throw. $50,000. For Marcus. My little brother who'd never worked a real job in his life. Who'd gotten everything handed to him while I was grinding in gyms that smelled like sweat and broken dreams. Who'd quit every team he'd ever been on because the coach was trippin', or practice was too early, or he just wasn't feeling it. "Ma, I know it sounds like a lot, baby, but this is family, and family takes care of family. You know that. I raised you to know that." There it was. The line. The one she'd been using my whole life. Family takes care of family. It was true when she worked double shifts to pay for my AAU fees. It was true when she drove me 3 hours each way to camps and showcases. It was true when she believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. But was it still true now? When Marcus had every chance I had and threw them all away? When he spent his days playing video games and talking about getting rich while I was in the gym at 6 in the morning running drills until my legs gave out? "I'll think about it," I said. "Think about it?" Her voice shifted. Not angry. Disappointed. Somehow that was worse. "Baby, this is your brother. I know who he is, Ma." "Do you?" "Because it sounds like you're forgetting where you came from. Who helped you get where you are?" My jaw tightened. "I'm not forgetting anything." "Then act like it. Marcus needs this. We need this. You got all that money now, and we're still struggling. That don't seem right to you?" I wanted to say so many things. I wanted to say that I'd offered to help her a dozen times, offered to pay off her mortgage, offered to get her a better car, a better life. I wanted to say that Marcus was 23 years old and had never held a job longer than 3 months. I wanted to say that $50,000 wasn't just money to me. It was validation, security, proof that all those years of sacrifice meant something. But I didn't say any of that, because she was my mother, and you don't talk back to your mother. "Let me think about it," I said again. "I'll call you tomorrow." "Tomorrow," she sighed. "All right, baby. You do what you think is right. I just hope you remember what's important." The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Outside, the city hummed with life. Cars honking, people laughing, the world moving forward like nothing had changed. But something had changed. Something fundamental had shifted in the air between my mother and me, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. My phone buzzed again. A text this time. "Marcus. Yo, bro, heard Mom talk to you. This opportunity is legit, man, I swear. Just need you to believe in me like I always believed in you." I almost laughed. Always believed in me. Marcus had spent most of my high school years telling me I was wasting my time, that I'd never make it, that I should get a real job like a normal person. He'd missed every single one of my college games because he was busy. He didn't even watch the draft. But now I was in the NBA. Now I had money. Now suddenly he believed in me. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my banking app and stared at the number. The number that represented every early morning, every sore muscle, every time I chose the gym over parties, over girls, over sleep. The number that meant I'd never have to worry about being hungry again. Never have to choose between new shoes and dinner. Never have to feel that hollow ache of being broke and powerless and invisible. $50,000. I could afford it, technically. But could I afford what it meant? Could I afford to become the family ATM? Could I afford to say yes to Marcus now and know that he'd be back in 6 months asking for more? Could I afford to teach him that failure had no consequences, that responsibility was optional, that Big Brother would always be there to clean up his messes? Or could I afford to say no? Could I afford to hear my mother's voice turn cold? Could I afford to be called selfish, ungrateful, changed? Could I afford to live with the guilt? I set my phone down and walked to the window. Below, the city sparkled, beautiful and brutal and indifferent. Somewhere out there, thousands of kids were dreaming the same dream I'd dreamed. Most of them would never make it. Not because they weren't talented enough, not because they didn't work hard enough, but because life was unfair and luck was fickle and sometimes the universe just said no. I'd been one of the lucky ones. I knew that. I'd had my mother's support when it mattered most. I'd had coaches who saw something in me. I'd had that one scout who took a chance. I'd had opportunities that thousands of others never got. But I'd also earned it, every single day, with blood and sweat and tears that nobody saw. In gyms where I was the first one in and the last one out. On nights when my body screamed for rest and I pushed through anyway. In moments when quitting would have been easier and I chose to keep going. I'd earned this, hadn't I? My phone rang again. This time it was Coach Mitchell, my high school coach, the one who'd seen me when I was a skinny kid with big dreams and bigger doubts. "Young man," he said, his voice gravelly and warm. "How's the NBA treating you?" "It's good, coach." "Real good. I can hear it in your voice. Something on your mind?" That was the thing about Coach Mitchell. He always knew. Even over the phone, even after years, he could read me like a playbook. "Family stuff," I said quietly. He was silent for a moment. Then, "Let me guess. They want something. How do you know?" "Because I've seen this story play out 100 times. Kid makes it. Family comes calling. Some of them deserve the help. Some of them just want a piece of the pie they never helped bake. My mom helped bake it, coach. She sacrificed everything for me. I know she did. I was there. I remember. But there's a difference between helping your mother and enabling your brother. You know that, right?" I did know that, deep down. But knowing something and accepting something are two different things. What do I do, coach? You do what's right, not what's easy. And you remember that you worked too damn hard to let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting what you built. Your mother raised a man, not a bank account. Don't let her forget that. We talked for another 20 minutes. About basketball, about life, about the weight of expectations and the cost of success. By the time we hung up, I felt clearer. Not certain, but clearer. I picked up my phone and started typing a message to my mother. Then deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. Words felt too small for what I needed to say. Too fragile for the weight they had to carry. Finally, I settled on something simple. "Ma, I love you. I love Marcus. But I need time to figure this out. This isn't just about money. It's about what's right. For all of us. I'll call you this weekend. We'll talk. Really talk." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again, then nothing. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. No response. The silence said more than words ever could. I set my phone face down and walked to my bedroom. Tomorrow I had practice at 7, then film session, then media availability, then weight training. The life I'd always wanted. The life I'd earned. The life that was supposed to make everything better, supposed to solve all the problems, supposed to be the happy ending. But nobody tells you that success brings its own kind of loneliness. That the higher you climb, the more people want a piece of you. That love and obligation can become so tangled that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the city, and wondered if this was what making it really felt like. Empty, complicated, uncertain, and expensive. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from Marcus. "Come on, bro, don't do me like this. Mom said you need time, but time for what? Either you gonna help or you ain't. That's family right there. Real talk. Real talk." I turned my phone off and closed my eyes. Tomorrow would come whether I was ready or not. The questions would still be waiting. The pressure would still be there. The guilt would still whisper in the dark. But tonight, I just needed to sleep. And tomorrow, I'd start figuring out what kind of man I wanted to be. What kind of son. What kind of brother. What kind of person survives success without losing themselves in the process? The answer, I was starting to realize, wasn't going to be simple. and it wasn't going to make everyone happy. Maybe that was the point. I didn't call her that weekend. I told myself I was too busy. We had back-to-back games, one in Phoenix, one in Denver. The altitude in Denver killed me. I played 23 minutes and felt like I'd run a marathon. Coach said I did good, said I was adjusting to the pace, said to keep my head up, but all I could think about was my phone, sitting in my locker, silent and heavy as a stone. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week. I sent her money for groceries, $500. Texted her, just a little something to help out, love you. She responded with a single word, thanks. Not, thank you, baby. Not, I love you too. Just, thanks. The punctuation felt like a door closing. Marcus didn't text again. That should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like the calm before something worse, like he was waiting, planning, getting Mom in his corner so that when they came at me again, it would be unified, coordinated, impossible to refuse. I tried to focus on basketball. That was supposed to be my escape, right? The court was where everything made sense, where effort equaled results, where the rules were clear and the scoreboard didn't lie. You either made the shot or you didn't. You either won or you lost. Simple. Except it wasn't simple anymore. Because even in the middle of a game, with 20,000 people screaming and my defender draped all over me, I'd hear her voice. Family takes care of family. I'd see Marcus's face. That smirk he always had. That look that said he knew he'd get what he wanted eventually because he always did. 2 weeks after that first phone call, I came home from a road trip to find them sitting in my building's lobby. Both of them. My mother and Marcus. On the leather couch near the elevators. Looking like they belonged there. Like they'd been waiting for hours. Maybe they had. I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw them. My duffel bag slid off my shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud. Surprise! Marcus said, grinning. He was wearing new sneakers. Jordans, the expensive ones. Probably $200. Where'd he get the money for those? My mother stood up slowly, her purse clutched in both hands. She looked tired, older than I remembered. Or maybe I just hadn't looked closely enough the last time I'd seen her. Baby, she said softly. We need to talk. The doorman, Eddie, was pretending not to watch, but I could feel his eyes on us, could feel the weight of the moment pressing down like a full-court press with no timeout left. You should have called, I said. My voice came out harder than I meant it to. We did call, Marcus said, still lounging on the couch like this was his place. You didn't answer. I've been busy. Too busy for your family? My mother's voice cracked just slightly. Just enough. I picked up my bag and gestured toward the elevator. Come on. We rode up in silence. 15 floors. The elevator music was some soft jazz thing that probably cost someone a fortune to license. Marcus kept looking around, taking everything in, his eyes cataloging every detail. The marble floors, the gold trim, the crystal light fixtures. I could practically see him calculating what everything cost. My mother stared straight ahead, her jaw set in that way that meant she was hurt. Really hurt. Not angry. Hurt. And somehow that was so much worse. When we got to my apartment, Marcus whistled low. Damn, bro. You really out here living like this? The apartment wasn't even that nice. Not compared to some of the guys on the team, but compared to where we grew up. The 2-bedroom apartment where Mom slept on the couch so Marcus and I could have our own rooms, where the heat barely worked in winter and the AC never worked in summer. Yeah, I guess it looked like a palace. Sit down, I said, dropping my bag by the door. You want something to drink? Water's fine, my mother said quietly, settling onto the couch. The same couch where I'd taken her phone call 2 weeks ago. The same couch where everything started to unravel. Marcus was already in the kitchen, opening cabinets, checking out the fridge. You got any beer? It's 2 in the afternoon. So no, there's water, juice, and soda. He grabbed a Coke and popped it open, leaning against my counter like he owned it. Nice place, man. Real nice. You got a spare room? I ignored him and brought my mother her water. She took it with both hands, like it was something precious. Like I'd handed her the world instead of a glass of tap water. Why didn't you call me back? She asked. Not accusing, just asking. That was worse. I told you I needed time, Ma. It's been 2 weeks. I know. 2 weeks is a long time to leave your family hanging. I wasn't leaving you hanging, I was thinking. Thinking, Marcus said from the kitchen, sarcasm dripping from the word. Meanwhile, I'm missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime because my big brother's too busy thinking. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. He'd put on weight since I last saw him. Not muscle, just weight. Soft around the middle. His eyes were clear, though. Not high, not drunk, just entitled, just comfortable in the certainty that the world owed him something. Tell me about this opportunity, I said evenly. His face lit up. He came around the counter, practically bouncing with energy. Okay, so check it out. My boy Devin, right? His uncle flips houses, like real professional type stuff, and he's looking for investors, silent partners. We put up the money, they do the work, we split the profits. It's basically free money, bro. If it's free money, why does he need investors? Marcus blinked. What? If it's such a sure thing, why doesn't Devin's uncle just get a loan from a bank? Because banks they're complicated, man. They want all this paperwork and credit checks and, look, that's not the point. The point is this is legit. This is real. And I need $50,000 to get in. $50,000 to flip a house with some guy's uncle who can't get a bank loan. You're making it sound shady. I'm making it sound exactly like what it is. Marcus's expression darkened. See, this is what I'm talking about. You got money now and you think you're better than everybody. You think you're smarter than me. I don't think I'm better than you, Marcus. I think I'm more careful than you. Boys. My mother's voice cut through the tension like a ref's whistle. Stop it. Both of you. We both fell silent. Old habits. When Mom spoke with that tone, you listened. She set her water down on the coffee table and looked at me. Really looked at me. The way she used to when I was a kid and she was trying to figure out if I was lying about breaking something or skipping homework. Baby, I know you worked hard for what you got. I know that. I was there. I saw every practice, every game, every time you came home with bloody knees and bruised ribs and kept going anyway. I'm proud of you. You know I'm proud of you. I know, Ma. But pride don't pay bills. Pride don't put food on the table. And Marcus is your brother. Your blood. He needs help, and you got the means to help him. That's all I'm saying. He needs a job, Ma. Not $50,000. Marcus exploded. A job? You think I haven't tried? You think it's easy out here? Not everybody gets to be a basketball superstar, bro. Some of us got to find other ways. Other ways like taking handouts from family? It's not a handout. It's an investment. In a house you haven't seen with money from a guy you don't know based on the word of your friend who probably hasn't held a job either. Man, fuck you. Marcus slammed his Coke down on the counter. Brown fizz splashed across the granite. You always did this. Always thought you were better. Always had to be the golden child. Well, guess what? Not all of us got your talent. Not all of us got your luck. Some of us got to make our own way. I'm not stopping you from making your own way. I'm stopping you from making your way with my money. It's family money. It's my money. The words came out louder than I intended. The apartment went silent. Even Marcus looked shocked. My mother stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking. When she spoke, her voice was ice. Is that what this is about? Your money, your success, your name on the back of that jersey. You think you did this alone? You think you got where you are without me? Without us? Ma, that's not what I worked 2 jobs, baby. 2 jobs. I missed sleep. I missed meals. I missed my own life so you could have yours. And now that you got it, now that you made it, you gonna stand there and tell your brother no? You gonna let him suffer while you sit here in your fancy apartment with your fancy water and your fancy life? Guilt crashed over me like a wave, heavy, suffocating, all-consuming. I'm not saying no forever, I said quietly. I'm saying no right now, to this, because it doesn't make sense, because Marcus hasn't shown me he's ready, because giving him $50,000 isn't love, Ma. It's enabling. Enabling. She repeated the word like it was foreign, like I just cursed in church. You sound like one of them white therapists on TV. Talking about enabling and boundaries and all that foolishness. I'm talking about family. So am I. No. She picked up her purse. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, certain, final. You're talking about yourself. You changed, baby. The NBA changed you. Money changed you. You ain't the same boy I raised. The words hit harder than any defender ever had. Harder than any loss. Harder than any injury. Ma, please. Come on, Marcus. She walked toward the door, didn't look back. We're not wanted here. Marcus followed, but not before shooting me a look of pure venom. You gonna regret this, bro. When you sitting up here alone in your big empty apartment, you gonna remember that you chose money over family, and that's gonna eat you alive. They left. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded like thunder. I stood there in the middle of my apartment, surrounded by all the things I'd bought with my first NBA paycheck. the furniture, the TV, the sound system, and felt emptier than I'd ever felt in my life. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. I love you, but I'm disappointed in you. I raised you better than this. I sat down on the couch and stared at those words for a long time, read them over and over until they stopped making sense, until they were just shapes on a screen, just symbols that held all the weight of a relationship that was crumbling, and I didn't know how to stop it. I thought about calling Coach Mitchell. I thought about calling my agent. I thought about calling one of my teammates, the older guys who'd been through this, who probably had their own stories about family and money and impossible choices, but I didn't call anyone. I just sat there in my expensive apartment, in my expensive silence, and wondered if Marcus was right, if I was going to regret this, if choosing myself over them meant I was selfish, or if it meant I was finally learning what boundaries were, what self-respect looked like, what it meant to be a man instead of a wallet. The city hummed beyond my windows. People lived their lives, went to work, came home, made choices that were probably just as hard, just as complicated, just as impossible. I thought about all the years I'd spent chasing this dream, all the sacrifices, all the pain, all the moments when quitting would have been easier and I pushed through anyway. I'd done that for me, but I'd also done it for them, for Mom, so she wouldn't have to work 2 jobs forever, so she could retire one day, so she could be proud, and she was proud. I knew she was, but pride apparently wasn't enough. Not when Marcus needed $50,000 for a dream that would probably evaporate the moment the money hit his account. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my agent, David. Hey man, got a couple endorsement opportunities I want to run by you. You free to talk? I stared at the message. Endorsements. More money. More opportunities. More proof that I'd made it. That I was valuable. That I mattered. But to who? I turned my phone face down and walked to the window. Below, the city sparkled in the afternoon light, beautiful and brutal and indifferent. Somewhere out there, my mother was riding the bus back home, disappointed in the son she'd raised. Somewhere, Marcus was probably already telling his friends how his rich brother had betrayed him, how money changes people, how family means nothing anymore. And here I was, successful, secure, safe, and completely, utterly alone. I pressed my forehead against the glass and closed my eyes. This was supposed to be the dream, the victory, the happy ending. So why did it feel like I'd just lost the most important game of my life? 3 weeks passed like a slow bleed. Mom didn't call. Marcus didn't text. It was like I'd been erased from their lives, cut out clean and surgical, leaving just enough scar tissue to remind me what I'd lost. I threw myself into basketball. What else was there? I averaged 22 minutes a game, improved my 3-point percentage by 4 points, earned praise from Coach Harrison, got mentioned in a couple of national articles as a rookie to watch. The team was winning. I was contributing. Everything was going exactly the way it was supposed to, except I couldn't sleep. Every night I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, replaying that conversation, seeing the look on my mother's face, hearing Marcus call me selfish, feeling the door close and knowing that something fundamental had broken between us, something that might never get fixed. I kept checking my phone, obsessively, like some kind of addict, hoping for a message, a sign, anything that said they still cared, that I was still part of the family, that I hadn't destroyed everything by saying no. Nothing. The silence was its own kind of answer. Then came the Wednesday afternoon practice when everything fell apart. We were running through offensive sets. Nothing complicated, just rhythm work to stay sharp between games. I was guarding Darius Webb, our starting shooting guard, a veteran who'd been in the league 8 years and had seen everything twice. He drove baseline. I stayed with him. He spun back. I anticipated. He pulled up. I contested. Perfect defense. Except the ball went in anyway. That's basketball. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. Good defense, Coach Harrison called out. Reset. But Darius was looking at me weird, like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure if he should. You good, Rook? He asked quietly as we jogged back. Yeah, why? You just seem somewhere else lately. I'm fine. Uh-huh. He didn't believe me. You want to talk about it after practice? Nothing to talk about. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't buy it. Darius was like that. Observant, smart, the kind of guy who could read a defense before it formed and read people the same way. Practice ended. I hit the showers, got dressed, was halfway out the door when Darius caught up with me in the parking garage. Hold up, Rook. I stopped, turned around. He was leaning against his Range Rover, arms crossed, looking at me with that same concerned expression he'd had on the court. Seriously, man, what's going on? And don't tell me nothing. I've been doing this too long. I know what nothing looks like, and that ain't it. For a moment, I considered brushing him off, making up some excuse, keeping it all locked inside where it belonged. But something in his face, genuine concern, no judgment, just one human being checking in on another, made the walls crack. Family stuff, I said. Money? I nodded. Yeah. He sighed, pushing off the car. That's the part they don't tell you about when you make it. Everybody wants a piece. Everybody's got a story. Everybody needs something. How do you deal with it? You learn to say no. You learn that no is a complete sentence, and you learn that people who really love you will understand. The ones who don't, he shrugged, they were never really there for you. They were there for what you could give them. What if it's your mom? The words came out quieter than I meant them to. Darius's expression shifted. Understanding. Sympathy. That's harder. Moms are different. They sacrificed for us. They gave us everything. So when they ask for something back, it feels like we owe them, like saying no is ungrateful. Exactly. But here's the thing, Rook. There's a difference between taking care of your mom and letting your family drain you dry. You can love someone and still have boundaries. You can be grateful and still protect yourself. She said I changed. You did change. You grew up. You made something of yourself. And yeah, that changes the dynamic. Suddenly you're not the kid who needs help anymore. You're the one with resources. That's uncomfortable for people, especially people who built their identity around taking care of you. I leaned back against my car, processing. My brother wants $50,000 for some investment thing that sounds like a scam. My mom thinks I should give it to him because family helps family. Darius winced. $50,000 for your brother. Let me guess. He's never had a real job, never shown responsibility, never paid you back for anything. How'd you know? Because I got 3 brothers just like him. And you know what I learned? Giving them money didn't help them. It hurt them. It taught them that failure has no consequences, that someone will always bail them out, that they don't have to grow up or get serious or take responsibility because big brothers got deep pockets. So what did you do? I said no, and it hurt. My mom didn't talk to me for 6 months. My brothers called me selfish, said I forgot where I came from, said money changed me. But you know what? Eventually they figured it out, got jobs, paid their bills, learned to stand on their own. And now our relationship is better because it's built on respect, not obligation. 6 months. The words felt heavy. 6 months of silence. 6 months of guilt. 6 months of wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. He looked at me straight. But I'd do it again because the alternative was becoming their ATM, their retirement plan, their excuse for never growing up. And that's not love, Rook. That's not family. That's just use. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out automatically, hoping, stupidly, desperately hoping it was my mother. It wasn't. It was an article. Someone had tagged me on social media. I clicked through and my stomach dropped. The headline read, NBA rookie refuses to help struggling family despite $1 million contract. Below it was a photo. My mother and Marcus, sitting in what looked like their living room. Mom looked tired, sad, like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Marcus looked angry, defiant, like he was ready to fight. I scrolled down, started reading. Local basketball star's mother speaks out about her son's refusal to help family in need. We're so proud of him, says Patricia Williams, mother of NBA rookie sensation. But pride doesn't pay bills. We're struggling, and he's living in luxury. I raised him better than this. The words kept coming, quote after quote. My mother talking about all she'd sacrificed. Marcus talking about how I'd forgotten my roots. A neighbor saying they'd always known I was selfish. A former teammate from high school saying I'd always been about myself. They'd gone to the media. My own mother had gone to the media. I couldn't breathe. The parking garage felt like it was closing in, the walls pressing against my chest, the air too thick to pull into my lungs. Hey! Darius's hand was on my shoulder. Hey, man. Breathe. Just breathe. I showed him the article, watched his expression go from concern to anger to something that looked like sadness. Damn, Rook. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Why would she do this? My voice cracked. Why would she? I offered to help her. I sent her money. I told her I'd take care of her. But that wasn't enough. She wanted me to give money to Marcus for some stupid... I couldn't finish the sentence. Darius took my phone, scrolled through the article. His jaw tightened. This is manipulation. You know that, right? This is emotional manipulation. They're putting pressure on you publicly because they couldn't get what they wanted privately. She's my mother, and she's wrong. Look, I get it. She sacrificed for you. She earned your gratitude. But gratitude doesn't mean you let yourself be abused. It doesn't mean you fund your brother's failures. And it sure as hell doesn't mean you let them blast you in the media because you had the audacity to set boundaries. My phone started ringing. My agent. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. A number I didn't recognize. Then another. Then texts started flooding in. Teammates. Friends. People I hadn't talked to in years, all reaching out, all asking if I was okay, all having opinions about what I should do. The story was spreading. Fast. You need to make a statement, Darius said. You need to get ahead of this before it gets worse. I'm not putting my family on blast. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you need to protect yourself. Because right now, they're controlling the narrative. They're making you look like the villain. And in this world, perception is everything. He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of responding publicly, of turning this private pain into a media circus, made me physically sick. We stood there in the parking garage for a long time, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the sound of cars coming and going echoing off the concrete walls. Normal life continuing while mine fell apart. My phone kept buzzing. Calls, texts, notifications. The story was everywhere now. Twitter, Instagram, sports sites, gossip sites. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone knew what I should do. Some people defended me, said family shouldn't exploit success, said I had a right to boundaries, said the article was manipulative and gross. Others destroyed me, said I was selfish, said I'd forgotten my roots, said I was exactly what was wrong with athletes today, said my mother sacrificed everything and I couldn't even help my brother, said I should be ashamed. The comments section was a war zone. Strangers fighting about my life, about my choices, about whether I was a good son or a terrible person, debating my worth like I was a policy position instead of a human being. I wanted to disappear, to drive somewhere far away and never come back, to go back in time to before I made it, when life was hard, but at least it was simple, when my mother loved me without conditions, when family meant support instead of obligation. Come on, Darius said finally. You're coming to my place. You shouldn't be alone right now. I'm fine. No, you're not. And that's okay. But you're not going home to that empty apartment to spiral. We're gonna get some food, watch some mindless TV, and figure out a plan. Tomorrow you'll deal with this. Tonight you're just gonna breathe. I wanted to argue, but I didn't have the energy. So I followed him, got in my car, drove through the city streets while my phone kept buzzing and buzzing and buzzing with messages from people who thought they knew my life, thought they knew my heart, thought they knew what I should do. At a red light, I made the mistake of opening Instagram. The article had been shared thousands of times. Someone had created a hashtag. Help Your Family was trending. My mentions were full of people I'd never met telling me I was trash, telling me my mother deserved better, telling me I should be ashamed. There were memes, jokes, people laughing at my pain, strangers who knew nothing about my story, nothing about the years of watching Marcus get everything while I got nothing, nothing about the nights I went to bed hungry so he could eat, nothing about the times I'd offered to help and been rejected because it wasn't enough. It was never enough. They knew nothing, but they had opinions anyway. I threw my phone into the passenger seat and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The light turned green. I drove. Somewhere behind me, my mother was probably watching the story spread, probably reading the comments, probably feeling vindicated, probably thinking this would force my hand, would make me give in, would prove that public pressure could accomplish what private conversation couldn't. And maybe she was right. Maybe I would give in. Maybe I'd wire Marcus the money just to make this stop, just to get my mother back, just to be able to sleep again without feeling like the worst person in the world. Or maybe I'd stand my ground. Maybe I'd weather this storm. Maybe I'd learn that doing the right thing sometimes means being misunderstood, being hated, being alone. I didn't know yet. All I knew was that everything I'd worked for, everything I'd dreamed about, everything I'd sacrificed for had led me here, to this moment, to this choice, to the realization that success doesn't solve your problems. It just makes them more expensive and more public and infinitely more painful. The city lights blurred as I drove. I wasn't crying. I don't think I was crying. But my vision was cloudy anyway, thick with exhaustion and grief and the bone-deep understanding that nothing would ever be the same. I'd made it to the NBA, but I was losing my family. And I didn't know if there was any contract in the world worth that price. I spent the night at Darius's place. Didn't sleep much. Just lay on his guest bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. Every buzz felt like an accusation. Every notification a reminder that my private pain was now public entertainment. By morning, the story had exploded. National sports shows were talking about it. Analysts were debating whether athletes owed their families financial support. Former players were weighing in with their own stories. Some defended me. Most didn't. My agent called at 7 in the morning. David's voice was tight, professional, concerned. "We need to talk. Now." I met him at his office downtown. Glass and steel and leather chairs that cost more than my first car. David was already there, suit pressed, coffee steaming, looking like he hadn't slept much either. "Sit down," he said. I sat. He slid a tablet across the desk. On it were dozens of articles, screenshots of social media, comments, memes. The entire internet had apparently decided that my relationship with my mother was their business. "This is bad," David said flatly. 3 endorsement deals are reconsidering. The community outreach program wanted you as a spokesperson. They're backing off. Your jersey sales actually dropped yesterday. People are returning them. The words felt distant, abstract, like they were happening to someone else. "What do I do?" I asked. "You have 3 options. 1, you give your brother the money. This all goes away. You look like the good son who came around. Your image recovers. Life goes on. And Marcus learns nothing. That's not your problem." "It is my problem. It's exactly my problem." David sighed. "Option 2, you release a statement. Carefully worded. Explain your side without attacking your family. Try to control the narrative. It's risky. People might not believe you, or they might think you're making excuses. What's option 3? You say nothing. You weather the storm. You let time pass and hope people move on to the next scandal. It'll hurt your brand short term. Maybe long term too, but you maintain your integrity. You don't compromise. You don't give in to public pressure." I looked at the tablet, at my face staring back from a dozen different articles, at the comments calling me selfish, ungrateful, heartless, at the memes mocking my mother's pain and my refusal to help. "I don't want to hurt her," I said quietly. "Even after this, even after she went to the media, I don't want to hurt her." "Then you're going to have to hurt yourself." The words hung in the air, true and terrible and unavoidable. My phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again. Different number. Again. "Media," David said. "They want your statement. They want your side. They want blood in the water." "I'm not giving them blood." "Then what are you giving them?" I didn't have an answer. I left David's office and drove. No destination. Just driving. Through the city. Past the arena where I played. Past the neighborhood where I grew up. Past the park where I'd spent 10,000 hours shooting until my hands bled and my legs gave out. I ended up at Coach Mitchell's house without meaning to. Like my car knew where I needed to be even when I didn't. He answered the door in a bathrobe and slippers, coffee in hand, looking unsurprised to see me. "Saw the news," he said simply. "Come on in." His house smelled like coffee and old books, the same smell from when I used to come here after practice, back when I was 17 and scared and didn't know if I was good enough, back when Coach Mitchell was the only person who believed in me unconditionally. We sat in his living room. He didn't say anything, just waited. That was his way. He never pushed, never demanded, just waited for you to be ready. "She went to the media," I said finally. "My own mother went to the media." "I know. How could she do that?" Coach Mitchell took a long sip of coffee, set the cup down carefully. "Because she's desperate. Because she's scared. Because she doesn't know how else to reach you. I tried to reach her. I called. I texted. I sent money. But you didn't give her what she wanted. Because what she wants is wrong. Maybe." He leaned back in his chair. "But from her perspective, she raised a son who made it, who has more money than he knows what to do with, and her other son needs help. In her mind, it's simple. One son has, the other son needs, so the son who has should give. It's not that simple. I know it's not. You know it's not. But she doesn't see it that way. She sees you saying no to family. And in her world, in the world she grew up in, you don't say no to family. Ever." I put my head in my hands. "I don't know what to do, Coach." "Yes, you do." I looked up. "What?" "You know what to do. You've always known. You're just scared to do it." "What am I supposed to do? Give in? Let Marcus take the money and blow it on some scam? Let my mother think that guilt and public pressure work? No." His voice was firm. "You talk to her, face to face. No phones, no texts, no media. You go to her house, you sit down, and you tell her the truth, all of it. The years of watching Marcus get everything, the resentment, the hurt, the fear that giving him money will only hurt him more. You lay it all out, and then you offer what you can actually offer. What if she doesn't listen? Then at least you'll know you tried. At least you'll know you told your truth with love, instead of letting strangers on the internet tell it for you. He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of going back to that house, of sitting across from my mother and seeing the disappointment in her eyes, made my chest tight. What do I say? You say what's in your heart, not what you think she wants to hear, not what will make this easier. What's true? I sat there for a long time. Coach Mitchell didn't rush me, just sat with me in the silence, the way he'd sat with me through 1,000 difficult moments before. Finally, I stood up. I should go. You should. He walked me to the door, put a hand on my shoulder. You're a good man. Don't let anyone, not even your mother, make you forget that. I drove to my mother's house, the same house I grew up in, the same house where she'd worked herself to exhaustion to keep a roof over our heads, the same house where every corner held a memory of struggle and survival and love. Her car was in the driveway. Marcus's car, too. They were both home. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, trying to find the courage to go in. My phone buzzed. Another article, another opinion piece, another stranger telling me what kind of son I was. I turned my phone off, shoved it in my pocket, got out of the car. The front door was unlocked. It always was. Mom never believed in locked doors. If someone wants to rob us that bad, she used to say, they need it more than we do. I stepped inside. The house was exactly the same. Same worn couch, same pictures on the walls, same smell of whatever she was cooking in the kitchen. Some things never changed. Ma? I called out. Silence. Then footsteps. She appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, dish towel in her hands, eyes widening when she saw me. Baby. Her voice was soft, uncertain. We need to talk. Marcus appeared behind her, leaning against the doorframe like he owned the place. Oh, now you want to talk after you embarrassed us, after you made us look like beggars? I didn't make you do anything. You chose to go to the media. Because you wouldn't listen. Because you... Marcus. My mother's voice cut through. Go to your room. Ma, I'm not a kid anymore. Go to your room. He stared at her, then at me, then back at her. Whatever he saw in her face made him back down. He disappeared down the hall, slamming his door hard enough to rattle the pictures. My mother and I stood there in the living room. Two people who'd been through everything together, now feeling like strangers. Sit down, she said finally. I sat on the couch. She sat across from me in her armchair, the same chair she used to sit in when I was a kid, when she'd quiz me on homework or ask about my day or tell me I could be anything I wanted if I worked hard enough. I'm sorry, I said before she could speak. I'm sorry for not calling you back. I'm sorry for letting this get so public. I'm sorry for hurting you. She nodded slowly. But you're not sorry for saying no. No, I'm not. Her jaw tightened. Why? Because giving Marcus that money won't help him. It'll hurt him. And you know it will. Deep down, you know it will. He's your brother. I know he is. I love him. But love doesn't mean enabling. It doesn't mean funding failure. It doesn't mean protecting him from consequences. He needs a chance. He's had chances, Ma. Dozens of them. You gave him chances. I gave him chances. He's 23 years old and he's never held a job longer than 3 months. He's never saved money. He's never shown responsibility. And now he wants $50,000 for some investment that even he can't explain properly. So you're just gonna let him fail? I'm gonna let him learn. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I worked so hard for you. I gave you everything. I know you did. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful, Ma. But that doesn't mean I owe Marcus everything. It doesn't mean I have to sacrifice myself to make up for his choices. So what? You're just gonna cut us off? You're just gonna forget us? No. I leaned forward. I'm gonna help you. The way I always said I would. I'll pay off your mortgage. I'll get you a new car. I'll make sure you never have to work again if you don't want to. I'll take care of you because you took care of me. Hope flickered in her eyes. And Marcus? I'll help Marcus when he's ready to be helped. When he gets a job. When he shows me he's serious about changing. When he proves that he can handle responsibility. I'll match what he saves. I'll support his real ambitions. But I won't fund dreams that are just excuses to avoid growing up. The hope in her eyes died. That's not good enough. It's all I can offer. You're choosing money over family. I'm choosing boundaries over enabling, and I'm choosing to believe that Marcus can be better. But he won't be better if I keep bailing him out. He won't grow if I keep catching him every time he falls. She stood up. Her hands were shaking. You've changed. The NBA changed you. Money changed you. No, Ma, I just grew up. And growing up means making hard choices. It means knowing when to say no. It means understanding that love doesn't always look like giving people what they want. Get out! The words were quiet but final. Ma, get out of my house. If you're not going to help your family, then you're not welcome here. I stood up slowly, looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who'd given me everything, who'd believed in me when no one else did, who'd sacrificed her own life so I could have mine. And I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. She was scared. Scared of what would happen to Marcus. Scared of what would happen to her if I wasn't there. Scared that maybe she'd failed as a mother because one son made it and the other didn't. Scared that the story she'd told herself, that hard work and love were enough, wasn't true after all. I love you, I said. No matter what happens, no matter how angry you are, I love you, and that's never gonna change. She didn't respond. Just stood there with her arms crossed, tears streaming down her face, looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen her. I walked to the door, paused, turned back. The offer stands, Ma. For you. Always. Whenever you're ready. I'm here. Then I left. Got in my car. Drove away from the house where I grew up. Away from the woman who made me. Away from the life I used to have. My phone was still off. I kept it that way. Drove back to my apartment in silence. No music. No podcasts. Just the sound of the engine and my own thoughts. When I got home, I finally turned my phone back on. Messages flooded in. Hundreds of them. But one caught my eye. Coach Mitchell. Proud of you. 3 words. But they meant everything. I sat on my couch. The same couch where this all started. Where I'd taken my mother's first call about Marcus. Where I'd made the decision that cost me my family. But maybe I hadn't lost them. Not really. Maybe I'd just set a boundary. Maybe I'd just drawn a line between love and obligation. Between support and enabling. Between being a good son and being a doormat. Maybe eventually they'd understand. Or maybe they wouldn't. Either way, I'd told my truth. I'd offered what I could offer. I'd stood my ground even when it hurt. And now I had to live with the consequences, whatever they were, for however long they lasted. The city hummed outside my window. Life went on. Games would be played. Contracts would be signed. The world would keep turning whether my family forgave me or not. I opened my laptop, started typing. Not a public statement, not a defense, just a letter to my mother, saying everything I couldn't say in person, all the hurt, all the love, all the hope that one day she'd see what I was trying to do, that I wasn't abandoning her. I was just refusing to drown trying to save someone who wouldn't grab the life preserver. And maybe that made me a bad son. Or maybe it made me a man who finally understood that you can't save everyone. Sometimes you can only save yourself, and hope that's enough. 4 months passed. The media storm eventually died down. It always does. Someone else did something more interesting, more scandalous, more worthy of the internet's temporary attention. My name stopped trending. The articles stopped coming. People moved on. I didn't. Every day I woke up and checked my phone, hoping for a message from my mother that never came. Every night I lay in bed wondering if I'd made the right choice, wondering if standing my ground had been brave or just selfish, wondering if there was a difference. Basketball became my refuge again. Not my escape, my refuge. There's a difference. Escape is running away from something. Refuge is running towards something, toward purpose, toward meaning, toward the one thing in my life that still made sense. I played well, better than well, averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, made the all-rookie second team, got extended playing time, earned respect from veterans, became someone the team could count on in close games. But none of it felt the way I thought it would. The success was real, but it felt hollow, like I was living someone else's dream while my own life crumbled in the background. Darius checked in on me regularly, took me to dinners, introduced me to his family, showed me what healthy boundaries look like. His mother called him twice a week, and they talked about normal things, the weather, her garden, his kids. No demands, no guilt, just love. I wondered if my mother and I would ever have that again. Then came the Tuesday afternoon that changed everything. I was at the gym, getting shots up after practice. Just me and the sound of the ball hitting the hardwood, swishing through the net, bouncing back, Meditation through repetition. The rhythm of it kept me sane. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this... A pause. Heavy breathing. Is this the basketball player? The one who wouldn't help his family? My stomach dropped. Who is this? My name is Robert Chen. I'm a social worker. I'm calling about your brother, Marcus. The world tilted. What happened? Is he okay? He's alive, but he's in the hospital. He was involved in an incident 2 days ago, a robbery. He's stable, but... Another pause. Your mother is here. She asked me to call you. 20 minutes later, I was in my car, driving faster than I should, running red lights I'd probably get tickets for later. None of it mattered. Marcus was in the hospital. My mother was there. Nothing else existed. The hospital was downtown, 45 minutes away. I made it in 30, parked illegally, ran inside. Room 437, 4th floor. I took the stairs. Outside the room, I stopped, took a breath, tried to prepare myself for whatever was waiting on the other side of that door. Nothing could have prepared me. Marcus was in the bed, his face bruised, his arm in a cast, monitors beeping steadily beside him. My mother sat in a chair next to him, holding his good hand, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 4 months. She looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met. Something passed between us. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement, recognition. The understanding that maybe we'd both been wrong, or maybe we'd both been right, or maybe it didn't matter anymore. Ma, I said quietly. Baby, her voice cracked. Thank you for coming. I moved to Marcus's bedside. He was asleep, his breathing steady but labored. He looked young, vulnerable, not like the arrogant kid who'd demanded $50,000, just like my little brother who'd gotten hurt. What happened? I asked. My mother's hands trembled. That investment, the real estate thing. It wasn't real estate, it was, I don't even know what it was, some kind of scheme. Marcus gave them money, not $50,000, but what he had, his savings, $5,000. When he realized it was fake, he tried to get it back. He confronted them. She couldn't finish. I closed my eyes. Felt the weight of it settle over me like a blanket made of concrete. They beat him up, she continued, her voice barely a whisper. Left him in an alley. Someone found him. Called an ambulance. The police are investigating, but... She looked at Marcus, and tears streamed down her face. You were right. You were right. And I was wrong. And I almost lost him. No. Let me say this. I need to say this. She stood up, still holding Marcus's hand. I was so focused on helping him, on protecting him, that I never let him fail. I never let him learn. Every time he messed up, I fixed it. Every time he quit something, I made excuses. I told myself I was being a good mother, but all I was doing was making him weak. You were doing what you thought was right. I was doing what was easy. And when you tried to do what was hard, what was actually right, I punished you for it. I went to the media. I tried to guilt you into giving in. I made you choose between your family and your principles. She wiped her eyes. And you chose your principles, and I hated you for it. But you were right. I moved around the bed and pulled her into a hug. She collapsed against me, sobbing, her whole body shaking with the weight of 4 months of regret and fear and realization. I'm so sorry, she whispered into my chest. I'm so sorry. I know, Ma. I know. We stood like that for a long time, mother and son, finding our way back to each other through the wreckage of our mistakes. Eventually, she pulled back, wiped her face, looked at me with eyes that were clearer than they'd been in months. The offer you made, to help me, to pay off the mortgage, to take care of me, does it still stand? Of course it does. And Marcus? I looked at my brother, sleeping peacefully despite the pain, despite the consequences of his choices finally catching up with him. When he's ready, when he gets a job, when he shows me he's learned from this, I'll help him then, but not before. She nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. A knock on the door. A doctor appeared, clipboard in hand, looking tired but professional. Family of Marcus Williams? Yes, my mother and I said together. He's going to be fine. Bruised ribs, broken arm, some lacerations. Nothing permanent. He's lucky. Very lucky. The doctor made a note on his clipboard. We're going to keep him overnight for observation, but he should be able to go home tomorrow. Do you have any questions? We didn't. The doctor left. Silence settled over the room again, broken only by the steady beep of monitors and Marcus's breathing. I saw what they said about you, my mother said quietly. Online. The things people said. the names they called you, and I let it happen. I encouraged it. I thought, she shook her head. I don't know what I thought. You thought you were protecting Marcus. I get it. But I should have been protecting you too. You're my son. Both of you are my sons. And I chose one over the other. That wasn't right. We're figuring it out now. That's what matters. She sat back down in her chair, looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You really made it, didn't you? Not just the NBA, not just the money. You became a man, a good man, the kind of man I always hoped you'd be. I learned from the best. She smiled. Small, sad, but real. I wasn't always the best. None of us are, we just do what we can. Marcus stirred. His eyes fluttered open. Took a moment to focus. When he saw me, something complicated crossed his face. Shame, relief, maybe even gratitude. Bro, he said, his voice rough. You came. Of course I came. You're my brother. He looked away. I'm sorry. For everything. For the things I said. For going to the media. For... He gestured vaguely at his battered body. For this. You tried to warn me and I didn't listen. I pulled up a chair. Sat down next to the bed. What happened, Marcus? He told us everything. The friend who'd approached him about the investment. The promises of easy money. The feeling that this was finally his chance to make something of himself without living in my shadow. The money he'd scrounged together. 5,000 from savings, 3,000 he'd borrowed from friends. The meeting where everything went wrong. The realization that he'd been scammed. The confrontation. The violence. I thought I could handle it, he said, tears streaming down his face. I thought I was smart enough, tough enough. I thought, he shook his head, I thought I could take a shortcut, that I didn't have to do it the hard way like you did. And look where it got me. You're alive, I said. That's what matters. But I lost everything. The money's gone. The people who did this are gone. The police said they probably won't catch them. I got nothing to show for this except a broken arm and a reminder that I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot. You just made a mistake. A $50,000 mistake. Or it would have been if you'd given me the money. He looked at me directly. You saved me. By saying no. You saved me from losing way more than $5,000. You saved me from myself. The words hung in the air. True and painful and necessary. So what now? I asked. Now I get better. Then I get a job. A real job. And I actually keep it this time. He looked at our mother. No more excuses. No more shortcuts. No more waiting for someone to save me. My mother squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you for saying that. Yeah, well, getting beat up tends to clarify things. We sat there for hours, talking, really talking, about the past, about the mistakes we'd all made, about the resentment that had built up over years of unequal treatment, about how my mother had protected Marcus because she was scared for him, scared that he didn't have what it took, scared that if she didn't help him, he'd fail, and about how that protection had become a prison for all of us. I'm going to do better, she said as the sun set outside the hospital window. I'm going to let Marcus stand on his own, and I'm going to respect the boundaries you set. You were right to set them. I see that now. And I'm going to be better about communication, I said, about not shutting you out when things get hard, about being honest instead of just saying yes or no without explanation. And I'm going to prove to both of you that I can change, Marcus added, that I'm not just the screw-up little brother, that I can be someone you're proud of. It felt fragile, this peace, this understanding, like it could break at any moment if we weren't careful. But it also felt real, more real than anything had felt in months. A nurse came in. Visiting hours were over. Time to go. My mother stood up, kissed Marcus on the forehead. I'll be back first thing in the morning. I'll be here, he said. Not like I can go anywhere. She turned to me. Walk me out? We took the elevator down together. Walked to the parking lot in comfortable silence. At her car, she turned to face me. Thank you, she said, for coming, for not holding a grudge, for still being you despite everything I put you through. You're my mom. Where else would I be? She hugged me again, tighter this time. I love you, baby. I always have, even when I was angry, even when I said things I didn't mean. I love you. I love you too, Ma. She got in her car. I watched her drive away. Then I sat in my own car for a while, processing everything that had happened. My phone buzzed. Darius. Yo, Rook, you good? You missed team dinner. Yeah, I'm good. Family stuff. Good stuff or bad stuff? Good stuff, for once. That's what I like to hear. See you at practice tomorrow. See you at practice. I drove home. Not fast this time. Just normal. Taking my time. watching the city lights blur past, thinking about how strange life was, how you could have everything you wanted and feel empty, how you could lose everything and somehow end up fuller, how sometimes the hardest thing you ever do is say no to someone you love, and how sometimes that's the most loving thing you can do. Back at my apartment, I opened my laptop, found the letter I'd written to my mother 4 months ago, the one I'd never sent. I read through it, all the pain, all the frustration, all the love, then I deleted it. I didn't need it anymore. Instead, I opened a new document, started writing something different. Not a letter, just thoughts, reflections. A story about a kid who dreamed of playing basketball, who made it, who learned that success doesn't solve your problems, but gives you the resources to face them. A story about family, about boundaries, about the difference between helping and enabling, about how love sometimes looks like saying no, about how growth is painful, about how you can't save someone who won't save themselves, about how redemption isn't a single moment, it's a process, a choice you make every day to be better than you were yesterday. I wrote for hours, lost track of time. When I finally stopped, the sun was coming up. My phone showed 7 missed texts from teammates asking if I was alive. Practice was in 2 hours. I should have been exhausted, should have been running on empty, but I felt lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed. My mother. Marcus is doing well this morning. Doctor said he can go home this afternoon. Thank you again for coming, for everything. I know we have a long way to go, but I'm grateful we're taking the first steps together. I smiled, typed back. Love you, Ma. See you soon. The city was waking up outside my window. People starting their days, going to work, living their lives, everyone carrying their own burdens, their own stories, their own impossible choices. I thought about Coach Mitchell, about Darius, about all the people who'd supported me when things fell apart, about how community isn't just family, it's the people who see you, who show up, who tell you the truth even when it hurts. I thought about Marcus in that hospital bed, about how close he'd come to losing so much more than money, about how sometimes rock bottom is the only place you can build a foundation, and I thought about my mother, about forgiveness, about how it doesn't mean forgetting, it means choosing to move forward anyway, choosing to believe that people can change, that relationships can heal, that love can survive even the hardest tests. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus. Yo, bro, when I get out of here, can you help me look for jobs? Not give me one. Just help me look. Show me how to do it right. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Yeah, I can do that. 3 words, but they meant everything. I got ready for practice, put on my gear, grabbed my bag, headed out the door. On the way to the arena, I stopped at a coffee shop, the same one I used to go to in high school when I was broke and dreaming and had no idea if any of it would work out. The barista recognized me. Hey, NBA star, you want the usual? Yeah, and can you add one of those breakfast sandwiches? Coming right up. I paid. Left a $50 tip. The barista's eyes went wide. For real? For real. Have a good day. Outside, the morning was crisp and clear. The kind of day that feels full of possibility. Like anything could happen. Like the story isn't over yet. Because it isn't. Stories don't end when you make it or when you fail. They just keep going. Chapter after chapter. Choice after choice. Learning and growing and sometimes falling and getting back up. That's what life is. That's what family is. That's what becoming a man is. Not perfection. Not having all the answers. Not never making mistakes. Just showing up. Being honest. Setting boundaries. Offering grace. Doing the hard thing even when the easy thing is right there. And hoping that's enough. I got to the arena early. Hit the court. Started shooting. The familiar rhythm. Ball up. Follow through. Swish. Retrieve. Repeat. Darius showed up a few minutes later. Saw me shooting. Smiled. Look at you. Lighter on your feet today. Feel lighter. Things worked out? They're working out. Still a process. But yeah. He grabbed a ball. Started shooting with me. 2 players in an empty gym. Just the sound of basketballs and breathing and the squeak of shoes on hardwood. Proud of you, Rook, he said after a while. Not many guys could handle what you went through and come out better on the other side. Couldn't have done it without people like you. That's what family's for. Real family. The kind that shows up without asking for anything. The kind that tells you the truth even when you don't want to hear it. We kept shooting. The rest of the team started filtering in. Practice began. Life went on. But I was different now. Not broken, not bitter, just wiser. More aware, more certain of who I was and what I stood for. I'd made it to the NBA, but more than that, I'd made it through. through the pressure, through the guilt, through the hardest decision I'd ever had to make. And I'd come out the other side still standing, still whole, still me. That night, after practice, after media, after treatment, I drove back to my apartment, made myself dinner, sat on my couch with a plate of pasta and a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. My phone buzzed. My mother. Just wanted to say goodnight, and to tell you I'm proud of you, not for the basketball, for the man you are. I read the message 3 times. Let it sink in. Let it heal parts of me I didn't know were broken. Then I typed back, "Thanks, Ma. That means everything. Love you." Outside, the city hummed. Inside, I breathed, just breathed. Present, grateful, at peace. This was what making it really looked like. Not the money, not the fame, not the highlights or the headlines or the contract, just this quiet moment, this hard-won understanding, this knowledge that you can survive the worst and still find your way back to love. I thought about the kid I used to be, shooting in empty gyms, dreaming impossible dreams, wondering if he'd ever be enough. I wished I could tell him, "You will be," not because of what you achieve, but because of who you become in the process, because of the choices you make, because of the lines you draw and the love you protect, and the person you refuse to lose no matter how much pressure the world puts on you. You will be enough, just as you are, right now, in this moment, and that's all you ever needed to be. I finished my pasta, cleaned my plate, got ready for bed. Tomorrow there would be practice, games, media, all the trappings of the life I'd dreamed of. But tonight, there was just this, peace, clarity, the understanding that the hardest battles aren't played on courts, they're played in hearts, in relationships, in the space between what you want to do and what you need to do. And I'd won. Not perfectly, not easily, but I'd won by staying true, by standing firm, by loving enough to say no, by believing that boundaries were bridges, not walls. The story wasn't over. It would never be over. But this chapter was closing. And the next one, the one where my family and I rebuilt, where Marcus learned to stand, where my mother and I found our way back to each other, was just beginning. And I was ready for it. All of it. Whatever came next. Because I finally understood what Coach Mitchell had been trying to teach me all along. Success isn't about what you gain. It's about what you refuse to lose. And I hadn't lost myself, despite everything. Despite the pressure and the guilt and the pain. I was still me, still standing, still whole. And that, more than any contract or trophy or headline, was the real victory. The only one that mattered. The only one that would last.